All right, guys, thank you very much for joining me. In a little bit, Dan from Sound Agriculture is going to be here to talk about his product Source. I want to do more of these videos of bringing you products that I find interesting or that we're using, and they're not paying. So Dan isn't paying me to be here. This isn't a paid commercial type thing. I reached out to them to invite them here because I saw people talking about this product and I find it interesting. Like our Hubbard mineral, I'd like to find somebody from Hubbard to come and explain why we're using Hubbard Blueprint Series mineral and we're seeing good response, and we've done a couple little trials on our own. And so it'd be interesting, could I get somebody from Hubbard to come and explain why we're seeing the good results, not just come to be a salesmanship video. And around the shop, like maybe once in a while I'll do a little promo video. It won't be a paid video, but like Permatex products. We've tried other generic silicones and thread locks and liquid gasket makers and stuff like that, and they just haven't worked as well or as easy to use as the Permatex, so we use the Permatex. So little 10-second bits like that once in a while I might throw in. Again, we're not being paid by anybody. I just want to share good experiences and find good products that's working for us, because there's so many out there that are just muddying up the waters nowadays. And so I hope you guys enjoy this video and reach out to Dan. I'll put his contact info in the description like I did with Joe and Dorel. You guys really liked that video I did with them two guys. Dan is with a company, so we're going to kind of keep it a little more professional, lighthearted, but we're going to keep it a little more professional than, I won't have many jokes. And so, all right, guys. Hey, thank you for joining me today. Special guest, Dan with Sound Agriculture, and we're here to talk about a Source, the product Source. And Dan, I invited you here because I saw your product online. Well, I saw your local retailer for your dealer, product. Yep. Your local dealer is my seed dealer. Yeah. We'll refer to him as the Missing Link. And he tried it and he was telling me about it, and I'm like, that really sounds amazing. I'm a skeptic. Mm-hmm. Like, we should be. I mean, history through agriculture and all these products, we got to be somewhat skeptical. But then I sent some off to a soil scientist, and they looked at the website and they're like, nothing seems fishy here. Like this seems to be, for what they could see, seems legitimate, and I trust them. And then looking around social media, everybody there's only a few posts of your product out there, but everybody's kind of this like, well, I tried it and I'm actually getting a response. Sure. And we have a mutual friend in agronomy together that we both enjoy and respect. Absolutely. So Dan and I met through him on social media. We get talking and we're like, man, we're both just very handsome, and we need to get this together to put on the camera for you guys. But I'm very curious about this product. But before we do that, introduce yourself and the product. Yeah, so my name is Dan Leffelman. I'm the regional sales manager for Sound Agriculture and Source. Not an agronomist, just a curious, curious guy who likes to bring value to ag, passionate about agriculture. Cover northern Minnesota and all of North Dakota. The Missing Link, he would like to be here today, but he's down at the National Farm Machinery Show, and he's like, you go see John. He's like, but I wish I'd been there. But so our product Source. And when you don't show up, you get the nickname. I knock on a closed door typically at his place. But so Source is a foliar chemistry for corn and soy, grass hay, alfalfa, and cotton. Foliar applied, we use it to replace NNP, increase yield, and optimize overall micronutrients. Okay. And we do that by activating what's already in your soil. So you are not a biological. So we're a chemical signaling mechanism. Okay. That happens. It occurs naturally. We're mimicking that signal in the soil.
And we say it provides 25 pounds of N and 25 pounds of P in the root zone.
Mimicking the signal from the plant?
From the root zone, yep. Through the plant, out the root zone, into the soil. And we lean on the soil to fix nitrogen and solubilize phosphorus the way it does naturally. We just kind of hypercharge that interaction in the soil.
Okay, because the plant says at this second I need some phosphorus.
Right.
And in fractions of a second, that soil life swims over, gets some phosphorus, and comes back. Right. So you're stimulating that relationship. We're
signaling that. So I always tell people it's like when your wife is making popcorn in the living room or in the kitchen, and you're sitting in the recliner in the living room, and you smell the popcorn, and it causes you to get up and go in the kitchen and go, "Are you making popcorn?" We're not the popcorn, and we're not the eater, but we're the signal that bring the two together and hypercharge that interaction.
I like that.
Yeah,
I like that. I don't know why they say what they did about you. That was actually
I appreciate
smart.
that. You either love me or hate me. And,
And so since you're a stimulant, not a biological, we don't have to worry about storage in a container. Like a lot of biologicals,
yes.
they're telling us that they're selling us bugs in a jug, but how are them bugs staying alive? So there's a lot of complexity there.
Yes, and I believe that is actually what sets us apart and what makes us the best product in that space. Is it's a chemical, so it's shelf stable for 2 or 3 years.
Okay.
It's a very low use rate, so we mix with what you're already doing. Our sweet spot is V4 to V6 on corn with a post-herbicide pass. We just dump it right in the tank. Or, depending on what you're doing up front, it can also go on about VT to R3, so at tassel time. Some guys are running a fungicide. But it just, tank mix compatible, low use rate, nothing alive in the bottle, no mixing issues. So it's the easiest one to use in the whole space.
Nice. And if you hate to use that sale gimmick of you're already going to the field, throw our product in. So if we, on the soil health side of things, this is why these products are kind of important to me, and I want to learn more about them because we're being just greenwashed with all these products of soil health and biology and stuff. So if we've had years of adding carbon, adding biology, is this potentially going to help us take advantage of that?
Yeah, so for what you're doing with cover crops and with strip till and building the soil back up, you already have generally higher populations of bacteria, fungi, the nitrogen fixers, the phosphorus solubilizers. So you already have a pretty rich population to activate and to do those things for you. Bring nutrients into the root zone, access water better, create healthier plants that are resilient to stress of all kinds. So
yeah, and then if we're looking at the data, not everything is a yield response. Obviously, you're going to have tons of yield response data.
Yep. So we have 2 ways to win with source. Typically, is what we say.
Okay.
For guys like you who are pretty efficient with nitrogen, so below that 1 pound of nitrogen to 1 bushel of corn, we consider that pretty efficient.
Okay.
So 0.95 NUE, we like to say.
Okay.
If you're below that, we like to add source into the tank for a yield response. And I think I can, in a lean environment like that, I think I can get you 5 to 10 bushels. I have guys in this area this year who will remain unnamed who saw 20 plus bushels in some fields.
Sure.
On the opposite side of things, guys who are, I think I'm over applying nitrogen. I know either I know I am or I just do what the co-op tells me to do.
Okay.
If you're above that 1-to-1 ratio, I have some guys putting on 180 pounds of N and they're 155 APH farm.
Okay.
We know that we can peel back 25 pounds of N or 25 pounds of P or both.
Okay.
Replace it with source, and we'll actually guarantee that you maintain yield, if not get yield, and we'll underwrite all those acres up to $100 for yield loss.
Okay, so you're in that instance, the 1-to-1 and 1.2-to-1 guys, you're just going to help them be a little more nitrogen smart.
Absolutely, we're bringing balance to the soil.
Yep.
Because we know a lot of that excess nitrogen is tying up your potassium. It can tie up some other microbes that are really important.
Yeah.
And so by bringing that soil balance through a healthy and active soil microbiome, you're getting more plant access to those nutrients.
So if we are stimulating soil life and that relationship, are we moving more micros? Would that
We do have really good micronutrients.
I don't know how to ask that the right way.
When we talk about like tie-up in the soil, a lot of times around in this area, a lot of times phosphorus is tied to iron, or phosphorus is tied to calcium and manure.
Yep.
And it's up to your soil to kind of break those bonds and make those things plant available.
Yeah.
And by using source and stimulating that interaction, we do have some great data on micronutrients, whether it's boron, zinc, manganese. We see a lot of really nice upticks. Even though we kind of market on N and P, we see a lot of great micronutrients as well.
So one thing that we both were kind of surprised on each other is I'm doing sap testing on our plants to develop a micronutrient mix to fix any deficiencies we might be having. You actually kind of chuckled and you're like, hold on, because you guys are actually doing plant testing. Because I mean, I just flat out said, like, it'd be nice to find a company that's actually, instead of just yield response, can you show us uptake in the plant tissue testing that we are gaining nutrient uptake? And you laughed and you're like, we're on it.
Absolutely. And we can, and it's a funny, it's a double-edged sword, because some guys are, at the end of the day, you get paid in bushels.
Yes.
And your input dollars are important. But also, and there's a lot of companies out there who say, well, if you get some tissue tests, regardless of yield, well, the product worked. Well, we want it to be a healthier, more resilient plant, and we either want to save you big on inputs or we want to give you yield as well.
Right.
So when it comes to, we want to show people in the field, I don't have to come back in a year and tell you a story as to why the product didn't work.
Right.
So we do
But
have
you increased boron.
Absolutely. We have a full agronomy team, and for guys that want us out there on the farm, we do tissue tests. We We do also do like the Haney test, for example.
Clean up that filth. It's a family channel.
So we can show the increased uptake in micros, whether it's zinc, boron, calcium, as well as NPK in the tissue, which is a great thing.
Yeah.
Then we'll come back and we'll do a soil test, and we'll see, hey, our P2O5 available phosphorus has ticked up, or we talked about CO2 burst before we started the video, that we can see on a Haney test that a healthy and active soil is going to respirate more, be more active, and we can measure that before and after source applications. And then ultimately, we want you to see it on the yield monitor at the end of the day too, just so you know, hey, I've seen this product work the entire season. Yeah. And now, sure enough, we get into the combine and I'm 9 bushels plus.
The fun.
So, the fun, absolutely.
But we could then you could argue. I think you totally just did a search on me before coming over and be like, this guy, we got to talk about this guy.
I did ask both of our mutual friends, like, what can I expect here? They're like, no need to prepare, they said.
But it is kind of funny because you're the first company that I've found that is CO2 bursting and plant testing and soil testing and looking at PFLA numbers and things like that, and digging in the soil other than just, look, guys, use our product and it costs you 3 bushels, but you got 5 bushels.
Right. And I think there's a lot. I think the trend to precision type agriculture is increasing, and guys want to know more as to what's happening in the soil.
Yeah.
What can I do to pass on a healthy, profitable farm to my kids? And also, maybe the things we've been doing all these years, maybe we can look at it a little bit different, try some new things. And that's why the guys like you who are interested in trying things and experimenting, and hey, I'll experiment and show my results even if I fail. I think that's why people respect what you're doing, and we like to work with guys like that. Because
in Minnesota, well, before I get to that thought, let's finish the thought of, if we're uptaking micros better, and the micros, a lot of times you can have a micro deficiency that shows up as a boron and phosphorus relationship. Hey, the plant is showing phosphorus, but then you find out it was just simply you needed some boron. Even if we, it's hard to imagine that it wouldn't lead to a yield response. But if we're coming back and we're part of the missing links, major yield response was actually disease or insect pressure. It wasn't just purely filling grain, it was self-defense or defense of the plant. And that we hear that from John Kempf and AEA and Glenn Rabenberg and every one of these guys that are alternative, that are like, if you manage your nutrients and make a healthier plant by nature's design, or I don't think we can say default, but you are going to then resist pest and disease. So if I can save an insecticide pass or save one fungicide pass.
Sure.
To get the same yield.
Yep, and I don't know that we have we don't have enough
Yeah.
data to say, hey, we definitely help in X, Y, and Z.
Correct.
But like you said, a healthy plant is going to be resilient against things like drought and
Yep.
and insect stress or white mold or whatever it may be.
Yeah.
And so anecdotally, people in the area like, hey, these were the healthiest plants that I
Yep.
observed all year long, and that's just a nice added benefit. I know it's the N and the P and the micros,
Yep.
but if I can get other benefits that ultimately lead to a healthy plant and soil and a yield response,
Yeah.
it checks a lot of boxes.
And we did see that. So we did the foliar feeding. It did not lead to a yield response. D4 drought kind of was the great denominator there. But we did see the stand in the soybeans. The insurance adjuster was the one that brought it up as to like, hey, how come you have no yellow leaves and no frog eye and
Sure.
all them little brown spots, this is the first time I walked a bean field that is green from top to bottom. And you're like, well, the only thing we did different than anybody around us is a foliar feed of some micronutrients. The other thing with the Nitrogen Smart, helping farmers be a little more efficient, because at this point you're not claiming that I can pull 25 pounds of potash and phosphorus out of my program.
You in particular, no, but it is a prescriptive type product. Like I want to know what you're doing.
Okay.
I'd like to see some of your soil tests, and I'd like to see, hey, what's the co-op got you doing with NNP?
Yeah.
And if we pull a soil test and you've got 80 parts per million phosphorus, and you're still putting 150 pounds of MAP and DAP out every year, it's like, well, maybe we can cut 25 pounds of that of P out.
We're working
Because
with 9.
we can make it. You are. So it is we like to know what growers
Correct.
are doing
Okay.
to make a recommendation because
Yeah.
some guys are over applying and they know it and they say, hey, Dad cut 40 pounds of nitrogen back in 1995.
Yeah.
We lost 25 bushels. We'll
Okay.
never cut again.
Correct. Yep,
That's why
yep.
our fertilizer guaranteed this year is, hey, let us make a recommendation and then let us underwrite it with an insurance policy of $100 an acre.
Yeah.
So that's been beneficial for guys. And then a lot of times I get those guys 4 or 5 bushels on the back end, and they're like,
Yeah.
I put less out and paid for the product, and I still got 5 bushels. So I'm in the black pretty quick.
Yep. And then, because in Minnesota, if we look at it, you got 8 counties right now that are under emergency action from the EPA on nitrogen. A lot of it's going back to the cafe,
Yeah,
the big feedlots and stuff, and we can argue as farmers to be
Yeah.
like, well, nobody's monitoring the cities when they dump the sewage, and nobody's ever going to listen to that conversation because it's always coming back
To run off.
to us.
Absolutely.
And so with your product, when the Chesapeake Bay area rules and regulations come to Minnesota, where there is no fertilizer spreading from December 1st to April 1st, you need to see soil tests to buy fertilizer. I mean, just them crazy regulations.
Yeah.
If you guys are helping guys, if your product is already helping us be that more
Efficient. And we do have some really great water quality data that from a third party.
Oh, really?
Who they test it, and over 2 years they reduced nitrates and phosphates leaving the tile water by 19%.
Okay.
And so it also, half because guys can reduce a little bit, and the other is we're becoming more efficient with what we're using, and more of it's getting into the plant, and less of it's leaving the field.
Yeah, that's
It's great. It's really coming.
That's pretty
There's a whole
interesting.
rabbit hole we could go down.
So
So it's been good.
At $100 an acre payback, if the product don't work, looking at the markets,
Yeah.
we're starting the 9th week consecutive down in soybeans. The greatest thing to happen would be the product didn't work for me.
Right. Exactly.
It might cash flow.
And to be clear, though, you've never used the product before.
No,
So,
nope.
yeah.
I was, we can joke about, because you guys are the polar opposite. You've got like Proven 40 and some of these other products that have massive marketing. They're in your face everywhere. They got the Top Crop channel, them shows on YouTube. They're sponsoring main events. They just bought a building at the University of Iowa.
that.
They sponsored a building down there. And I have not seen one single farmer that did any sort of trials show definitively this product worked. And even on the Top Crop channels on YouTube, none of them people have ever came and been like, look at, like, this is clearly the data is there. but your guys' product with very little marketing. You're not sponsoring TV shows and all that stuff. You're just normal marketing.
Yeah.
It's word of mouth is where your product is coming in, and I'm a local kind of guy.
Yeah, absolutely.
And to me, that's kind of neat to see.
Yeah, and I think most guys always ask, it's, hey, do you have university data? And we do.
Yeah.
We have third-party data, and we do. And the next question is, who in my area is using it?
Oh,
and
okay.
sometimes it's, a lot of times it's guys like you're the first guy to use it.
Yeah.
And somebody's got to be the first. But now that we've grown considerably over the last 4 or 5 years, we'll be on close to 2 million acres. We almost have data points within 50 miles of everybody. I feel like. So it's been good that way, and we continue to grow. And
you're
like
35.
Said,
you're within 35 miles of us here.
And so one of our, the guy who's missing here today, he kind of rolled the dice on it, to get it to guys because he believed in the soil health aspect, and he wanted to bring ROI to his farmers. Like, I want my guys to just be able to do better, make more money.
Yeah.
And he was a little bit, cautiously optimistic going into harvest this past year.
Yeah.
And he had a bunch of customers win to the tune of 10 plus bushels, which was awesome. He's like, okay, now I'm a believer, and that feels good for me because, I watched a lot of dairy farmers lose their farm in Wisconsin over the years, and growing up, it's like, to me, it has to make sense in your farm, and it has to be profitable, and that's kind of why I'm here.
Yeah. Yep. And other than so I have nothing. I have nothing other than the check left downstairs. I have nothing. There's no.
It's a rubber check.
There's no sponsorship or nothing, and so and everybody watching knows that this is just me finding a good product. Sure. And so we will play with it a little this year and have some fun with it and see how it goes. Win, lose, or draw, it's going to be there.
Absolutely.
But no, are you happy?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I'm happy to be here. I'm happy with the product, the response. Absolutely. I would. We always invite. The nice thing about having so much data is we invite people to. I've had CCAs and independent guys come and, hey, let me come in and shoot some holes in this product. And by the end of the conversation, they recommend to their grower, like, you know what, this makes sense. Like, let's try 500 acres and see what happens. And if it doesn't work, you get your money back. So that's been fun for me because there's a little bit of that in me where I like to prove people wrong.
Yeah.
But we need people like you to try the product and give honest results. So that's been great.
The shoot holes in the product, that is, when I sent it off to the scientist, I really was expecting it to come back like, oh, look at this, here they say this.
Yeah, this is sugar water.
Yep. And you're basically buying a $30 a gallon fulvic acid for nothing, for $1 of molasses. And they came back like,
and it's about half that. So right now you can get it for about $15 an acre on corn.
Okay.
About $12 an acre on soybeans.
Okay. Goes
up in price at the end of this month, but it has been in the space for 25 pounds of N, 25 pounds of P for $15. It's the most cost-effective in-season nutrients I think you can get.
Yeah. And thinking about, like our soils up here are very low naturally in P and K, on soil tests and stuff. And so maybe on our lower CECs where management is starting to pay off, nutrient management is starting to pay off, I wonder if something like this wouldn't give a little more bang for the buck versus your 6 and 7% organic matter.
And we love to go after, low CECs and low organic matters mean different things across the Midwest, but I always say go after hey, if I'm running 1,000 acres and I want to try 100 acres of this stuff, like, where do I start?
Okay.
And I would say, let's go after whatever's bringing your APH down. Like, let's go after that lower CEC ground, lower organic matter ground, stuff that we know doesn't hold nutrients real well.
Okay.
Well, let the interaction happen in the root zone from your soil,
and
it'll smoke your check strip. For sure. I mean, I do feel confident in that.
Nice. Well, I don't know what more questions to ask.
If you have some, reach out. So sound.ag is our website. He can share my contact information for anywhere in northern Minnesota or North Dakota.
I'll put that in the description.
And I covered Wisconsin and Illinois too. So the nice thing about this job is everybody grows the same couple crops, but they all grow them a little bit different. And so we like to learn your fertility program, make recommendations to help you win, and it's been really great.
We do have food grade beans. We are doing an experiment with food grade beans, and so it'd be fun to put it in there to see, because they test protein, fiber,
Yep,
sugar
absolutely.
content. You know, they're really specific on all their tests.
Yeah, and we have some trials. We're not on label for edible beans yet, but
Yeah.
we have some trials with some really good data behind them.
Yeah.
Same with some sugar beet stuff. It's been really good. Grass hay and alfalfa have been awesome. Corn silage has been everything it touches, it wins on.
Yeah.
It's been great.
So with them, since they, you know, it's almost like milk. You know, all your
100%.
components.
Yeah.
And so it'd be really fun to come in and be like, hey, you know, that's my day
For sure,
fantasy.
for sure.
But
But yeah, reach out to him or
Yeah.
to me, and I'm happy to answer questions from anybody. So,
thank you
hey,
very
great
much.
to meet
Dan.
you finally. Yeah, thank you.
Take care.
You too.